Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today into a company you might not have heard of, DeepSeek. They're a Chinese AI company making a splash. Big splash. You'll get why in a minute. DeepSeek's known for their AI models, especially these large language models, LLMs. The ones everyone's talking about. What's wild is they're reaching a level like on par with the giants. Think Google, OpenAI, that crowd. But here's the kicker. Ready for this? They're making those models open source, totally free. Use them, change them, spread them around. This is not how AI usually works, especially not coming from the big players. This whole approach, it's shaking things up big time. It's got that disruptive innovation vibe, like what Clayton Christensen, the Harvard professor, used to talk about. Sadly, he passed away. But his ideas, they're super relevant here. We've got our expert with us today to help us connect the dots. So how does what DeepSeek's doing line up with Christensen's theories?
DeepSeek's strategy, it's a textbook example of Christensen's disruptive innovation. It's not about going head-to-head with the big guys right off the bat, more about finding that underserved market or even creating a whole new market nobody saw coming. Christensen, he talked about two main types of disruption, right? We got low-end disruption, where someone comes in with a simpler, cheaper product. Might not be as fancy at first, but it grabs a chunk of the market the big companies are ignoring. Like, think back to those early budget airlines. Then there's new market disruption, where you're carving out a space that didn't even exist before, kind of like the first personal computers did. Created a whole new market from scratch.
Okay, but where does DeepSeek fit in? I mean, their AI models are free, yeah, but they're already top-notch, not some low-end thing.
That's what makes DeepSeek so interesting. It's like a Trojan horse. Sounds harmless, even helpful, right? But it's got the potential to disrupt everything from the inside.
Okay, now you've got me hooked. Tell me more.
Think about who benefits from these open source models. Researchers, developers doing their own thing, smaller companies. Suddenly, they've got access to AI tools that were way out of reach before. Too expensive or locked down by the big companies. This is the underserved market DeepSeek's tapping into.
So they're democratizing access to powerful AI. That's a big deal on its own. But how does that actually shake up the AI industry, like disrupt it?
It's disruption on multiple levels. First, DeepSeek throws a wrench in that whole idea that disruption starts with a lower quality product. Their models are already high performing. The disruptions in how they're shared, who gets to control them. It's what we call the performance paradox. Second, this move by DeepSeek, it's sending ripples through the whole AI world. The big companies, they can't just sit back and watch. There's a demand now for AI that's more affordable, more accessible. They got to adapt, maybe start doing open source themselves, change their pricing, or focus more on services around AI, not just selling the models.
Right, makes sense. It's wild how DeepSeek is pushing the whole industry in a new direction.
And the long-term effects, those could be even bigger. Imagine AI innovation speeding up because more people have access to the tools. Could level the playing field for smaller players, maybe even put more focus on ethical AI development. More transparency, more people involved, all because of open source.
It's like DeepSeek's writing a whole new chapter in the AI story. But gotta ask, are there any downsides to this open source thing? Any risks that come with it?
Of course, there's always some uncertainty. One concern, misuse, right. If anyone can tinker with these powerful AI models, what's stopping someone from using them for bad stuff? Deepfakes, spreading misinformation, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a scary thought.
Definitely something the whole AI community needs to think about. How do we balance the good stuff, the open access, with responsible development, keeping things ethical? No easy answers there. It's complicated.
Feels like we're in uncharted territory with AI.
We are. We've got this incredibly powerful tool, but we're still figuring out how to use it right, how to keep things safe. It's going to take everyone working together, talking to each other, experts from all different areas, ethics, law, tech, you name it.
So DeepSeek set off a major shift in the AI world, that's for sure. But let's zoom out for a second. What are the bigger lessons here? What really stands out to you?
DeepSeek's journey, it's a masterclass in disruption. They understood their market. They saw a need nobody else was filling, and they came up with a unique solution. They moved fast, adjusted as they went, built a whole ecosystem, and they weren't afraid to break the mold, do things differently.
And they did all this without being some massive company.
Right, exactly. Proves that disruption can come from anywhere. It's not about how big you are or how much money you've got. It's about understanding your market, being willing to question everything, and being able to move quickly when things change.
These are lessons that apply to any industry, not just AI.
Absolutely. Doesn't matter if you're starting a business, leading a team, or just interested in innovation. DeepSeek's story has a lot to teach us. It reminds us to always ask ourselves, what are the needs in our field that nobody's meeting? What are we taking for granted? And how can we create value in new ways, ways nobody's thought of before?
Those are some great questions to think about. It's inspiring to see a company like DeepSeek shaking things up, pushing the limits.
It all comes back to strategy and innovation.
So what else can we learn from DeepSeek's approach?
One big takeaway is success isn't always about being the best in the traditional sense. DeepSeek didn't set out to make AI models that were objectively better than everyone else's on every single level. They focused on a different kind of value: accessibility, affordability, community.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of how a different way of thinking can disrupt a whole industry. DeepSeek, they didn't follow the usual playbook. And look at them now.
Right. They saw a chance to do things differently and just went for it.
Exactly. And that's a key lesson for anyone who wants to innovate, you know? Sometimes the most disruptive things aren't about having the fanciest tech. It's about challenging those basic assumptions, like how things should work.
DeepSeek definitely flipped the script. It's like they said, hey, what if everyone could use this technology? And boom, everything changes.
Exactly. It reminds us that innovation isn't always about inventing something totally new. Sometimes it's about finding new ways to use what's already out there. Okay, so DeepSeek's story shows us how important it is to question assumptions, to know your market, and to work together. But what about the actual doing? How do they make it happen?
Speed and being able to move fast, that was huge for DeepSeek. They moved quickly, they changed things up as they went, they weren't afraid to try new things. They knew that in AI, things move so fast, it's not enough to just have a great idea. You got to be able to make it happen and change with the times.
So it's about being flexible and responding to the market, not getting stuck in planning forever.
Exactly. And one last thing, DeepSeek reminds us that success isn't just about the technology itself. It's about creating a movement, bringing together people who are passionate about the same thing. They made people feel like they were part of something bigger, and that helped them do amazing things.
It shows that people are at the heart of any big innovation. Having a great team, a culture where people work together, that's just as important as having a killer product.
Totally agree. Okay, so DeepSeek's making waves, right? We're seeing the ripples you talked about throughout the AI industry. But what's that actually look like? How are other companies reacting to all this?
We're seeing different reactions from all sides. Big companies like Google and Meta, they're starting to release their own open source models, or at least making their existing ones cheaper to use. They're realizing they can't just ignore this whole OpenAI thing.
Like they're playing catch up a little bit.
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah.
They're also trying to figure out how to stay ahead of the game in this new world. It's not just about the tech anymore. It's about the whole ecosystem around it. Makes sense. What about researchers and developers? How's this whole open source thing affecting them?
For them, it's been a game changer, seriously. They can finally get their hands on these high-powered models without dealing with expensive licenses or closed systems. They can experiment, build new applications, push the boundaries of AI in ways they couldn't before.
So it's like this explosion of innovation coming from a whole new group of people.
Exactly. That's one of the most exciting things about all of this. We're seeing AI becoming more accessible to everyone, and who knows where that will lead.
This all sounds super positive, but are there any worries about open source AI? I mean, there's got to be some downsides, right?
You're right, it's not all perfect. One big worry is people using it for the wrong reasons. If anyone can get these models and change them, how do we stop them from being used for bad stuff, like making deepfakes or spreading fake news?
Yeah, not good.
It's something the whole AI community has to deal with. How do we balance the good stuff, like open access, with making sure it's developed responsibly, ethically? Tough questions, no easy answers.
Feels like we're walking a tightrope with AI, trying to figure it all out.
We are. It's this incredibly powerful tool, but we're still learning how to use it the right way, how to keep it safe. It's going to take people from all different fields working together and talking to each other. Ethics people, lawyers, tech folks, everyone.
So DeepSeek's really shaken things up in the AI world, that's clear. But stepping back, what are the bigger lessons we can take from this whole story? What really sticks out to you?
DeepSeek's journey, it's a textbook case of disruptive innovation. They understood their market, they saw a need that nobody else was filling, and they came up with a unique solution. They moved fast, they adapted along the way, they built a whole community around their product, and they weren't afraid to challenge the way things were supposed to be done.
And they did all this without being a giant corporation.
Exactly. It shows that disruption can come from anyone, anywhere. It's not about the size of your company or how much money you have. It's about understanding your market, being willing to question everything, and being able to move quickly when things change.
Those are valuable lessons for anyone in any industry.
Absolutely. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a business leader, or just someone interested in innovation, DeepSeek's story has a lot to teach us. It reminds us to always be asking ourselves, what needs are out there that nobody's meeting? What are we taking for granted? And how can we create value in new ways, ways that haven't been thought of before?
Great questions to think about. It's inspiring to see a company like DeepSeek shaking things up, pushing the boundaries.
And it all goes back to strategy and innovation.
Okay, so let's continue our deep dive into what we can learn from DeepSeek's approach.
One of the biggest things we can learn is that success isn't always about being the best in the way we usually think about it. DeepSeek didn't try to make AI models that were technically better than everyone else's in every single way. Instead, they focused on different things that mattered: accessibility, affordability, building a community.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of how a different approach can shake up a whole industry. DeepSeek, they didn't play by the rules, and look where it got them.
Right, and that's a huge lesson for anyone who's into innovation.
Mhm.
Sometimes the most disruptive things, they're not about having the best tech. It's about questioning the way things are supposed to be.
DeepSeek totally flipped the script on that one. Like, hey, what if we just made this tech available to everyone and bam, everything changes.
Exactly. It reminds us that innovation, it's not always about inventing something totally new from scratch. Sometimes it's about finding a new way to use what we already have.
Okay, so DeepSeek's story shows us that we need to challenge what we think we know, understand our market, and work together. But what about actually getting things done? How did they pull this off?
Speed, being able to move fast, adapt, that was crucial for DeepSeek. They moved quickly, they were always tweaking things, trying new stuff. They weren't afraid to experiment. They understood that in AI, everything goes so fast, you can't just have a great idea, you got to be able to execute.
So it's about being nimble, being able to react to the market, not getting stuck in planning mode forever.
Exactly. And one more thing DeepSeek shows us, success isn't just about the technology itself, it's about building a movement, bringing together people who are passionate about the same vision. DeepSeek, they made people feel like they were part of something bigger, something important.
It really shows that people are at the heart of any successful innovation. Having a great team, a culture where everyone works together, that's just as important as having an amazing product.
Couldn't agree more. And if you're thinking about building your own movement or just want to learn more about strategy, innovation, all that good stuff, you gotta check out Acquisition Pro. They're the experts at helping companies make a real impact.
I was just about to say that. Acquisition Pro, they're the go-to for anything strategy or innovation related. They've got so much knowledge, resources to help any company thrive. This deep dive into DeepSeek, it's been eye-opening, for sure. It's amazing how one company, making some bold moves, can change an entire industry. Who would have thought a company most people haven't even heard of could shake up the world of AI like this?
It really shows the power of disruptive innovation and why it's so important to challenge the status quo. DeepSeek's story, it's still unfolding, and it'll be interesting to see where they go from here and what happens with AI in general.
Definitely gives us a lot to think about. Big thanks to our expert for all these insights. And to all our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Hope you found it as thought-provoking as we did. We'll catch you next time.